Today's whole ethos, which is a big word, I realize that, is it only needs what it needs. We're not trying to win the Grand National Roadster Show. We are not trying to even win the local car show. Good morning. Welcome back to TYGR's Garage. It is 8:16 a.m. First order of business is we are heading into town to the metal store to pick up an order that should hopefully be everything we need to complete kind of the back half of the cab. So we got about an hour drive into metal supermarkets. They promised me it'd be ready by 9. We're back from the metal store, metal supermarkets. Pretty cool place, actually, but kind of expensive. Here's where we're at. Since last time, I have obviously taken the door off. I've also added a couple pieces of bracing just because I was getting nervous. So I found some old scrap and I braced the door opening here, the door opening there, and I put a beam between them, mostly just to make myself feel better. It's not going to do anything about our sag in this corner, but it should keep the door opening square. Here's where we're going to start today. This area, and then the rocker. And then we are just going to work our way that direction, I think. I reserve the right to change that plan. But now we should finally have all of the stuff we will need. Metal, surplus metal, stamped panels. We should be good. I'm going to try really hard to remember that I don't need to cut everything. I just need to cut the bad stuff. So I bought one of these. We're not going to use the whole thing. I'm going to try just to patch what's bad. It's really not bad up here. I don't want to get into this cowl because it's questionable, but it's kind of giving us part of our patina, and I really don't want to mess with it because that's the whole character of this truck. I will likely do something about how awesome that fender fits. Today's whole plan, this weekend's whole plan is very simple. It only needs what it needs. We are trying to get floors in this thing. I want it ratty. That's the point. I keep saying that. It's not just an excuse. I really, really do. So like up here is fine. I'm going to cut this little panel out. I'm going to throw a patch in there. We're going to call it good. Looking at this rocker, most of it's actually okay. I might just snip the top where this flange is and snip it off the new one and just try to make it go a little faster and try to make it easier on ourselves. Like I said, this is my first time doing this. There's no reason to make it harder than it needs to be, especially on a truck like this. So I'm just going to clean this up really quick, build a patch out of something, probably not even this, but maybe. I have some other stuff. That's why I went to the metal store, and we're just going to get rocking. This brace makes a nice little handle. I gotta open the door. So I've got my problem area cut out, sanded. I basically need to make something that shape. I've got a little piece of cardboard that I'm gonna try to make a template out of. I think I might be able to trace it from the inside here, or at least kind of. All right, something like that. We'll cut it out. A little big, obviously, and then we'll transfer it to metal and somehow hold it in there and tack it in. Okay, we got our piece cut. I cut it a little oversized on purpose, but that's about what we're looking for. So we're going to trace this onto this piece of, it's like 18 gauge. I actually cut it out of something else. We'll have to grind and sand and test fit a bit. Then we'll tack this in there and we'll worry about the rocker, and we're going to keep on keeping on. So I've got my panel just sitting in here. I don't want to touch it or it'll fall. It fits okay, not great, but that's kind of the moral of the story of this whole thing. So I think what I'm going to do now is grab the welder. I'm going to tack it like here, and then I'm going to try to bend it around and kind of get it to fit, and then tack it in a couple spots, and we'll call that done. Hit it with some rust encapsulator. We've started adding instead of subtracting, which feels good. It's gonna go something like that. That piece done. It's a lot of tedious work. I blew through this a couple times. It's easy to find where you don't have good metal because your weld wire just goes, pokes right through. Probably need to finish that out a little more. I might do it with a different disc. Gonna leave it for now and turn our attention to this rocker, which isn't in that bad a shape, except for up here. So we might, there's a little bit of a line right here. Might take it there and then cut that lip off the new one and just weld it on here. Okay, so here's the rocker. It's not in terrible shape except for the top. There's a little ventilation here, but we're just gonna say that's for water to drip out. So I think what I'm gonna do is I put the flap wheel on this and it kind of exposed this line. There's a little bit of like a body line, for lack of a better word right there. It's really where the floor folds over, it gets spot welded to it. That is gonna be an important area because we're gonna have to do that spot welding. And it's just generally pretty rough. I would like this to extend all the way. It doesn't. I have new rockers. I don't think we're going that far. I think I'm gonna come in and slice this off at that line, cut the rest of the floor right here, take that piece and then come over to our new rocker. You can see the line there, hack it off there, but then just use the top piece to save us some time and give us a good right angle to start building our floor kind of that way. Now I think if I'm careful, I could take it right at that line. Actually, hold on. Let me make sure those lines are the same before I cut it off and assume that this distance is the same on a OE panel and a repop panel, because that would throw everything off. All right, they are in fact the same. 7/8 is the number. I went ahead and marked a Sharpie line too to kind of keep myself on track. Okay, so I've got my piece cut off my new rocker panel, clamped up on top of my old rocker panel, and I'm gonna start welding it in place. I got some major gaps to fill because evidently I can't cut straight, but I did measure before I cut, and from here to the top of this is 5 3/4. So that's what this is. I got it clamped up and I'm just gonna tack. This is a lot of welding, but I'm gonna tack end to end, try to keep the heat out of too many spots. And then for the big gap areas, I do have a copper block that I can kind of clamp behind it. So I'm gonna get to tacking and I'll see you guys in probably an hour. Okay. Probably just check my 5 3/4 quick before we get too crazy. Looking good. Looking good on both ends. I like that. I got a major gap to fill here. I'm gonna see if I can't use this copper block to kind of as a backer, you know? Oops, I just clamped my finger. Come on now. Looks like it worked in a couple places, which is perfect. And this acts as a heat sink too. I'm gonna try to do a couple more spots. I don't want to warp anything, so as much as I'm bad at it, we do have to go slow. But things are looking pretty good. Let's gently massage it into place. All right. Lost a bit of my sweatshirt in the process, but our rocker is in there. Now, just to remind you, I cut it 7/8 of an inch down and just welded in the top part so we have a nice flange to keep working on our floor. Now here's the deal. Probably need to do that to the other side too. Now I can't decide if I should do that first. I think probably. And then build the floor or work that way. But because the floor overlaps the rocker, I feel like the smart thing to do is probably gather up my stuff, go over there and do the rocker. It's really not been going too bad. It just takes forever. All right, here we are, driver's side. Honestly, rocker doesn't look too terrible. It is missing the flange. The lower pillar is better on this side. The rocker looks about the same. I think what we gotta do first is get this door out of the way. So I'm gonna grab a 9/16, zip this door off. Hopefully zip is the right word. The other one fought me a little bit. And then we'll come in here and we got to get this trim piece off. We'll move that plate. We got some cutting to do so we can have a look at this rocker and see what our plan is here. As you can see, we got the door off. It wasn't too bad. They're just kind of heavy and awkward, and you know, the way they fit in these pockets is annoying, and yeah, you know. But anyways, it's off. We got to get this piece off, which is like old trim, basically. It's got Phillips screws that are not going to come out. This outer lip is part of the old floor. Where it comes around it, it's spot welded. We'll see how bad we want to fight this. If we decide not very bad, we could probably just cut right at that lip like last time. cut the other one off the old panel or the new panel and do the same thing as the other side. But let's make some space, clean up my stuff, and have a real look at it here. Oh, look at all that. I think the easiest thing to do is going to be the same thing. Take a measurement here to here, and then we'll snip this panel off right here. Okay, so our measurement's the same. Basically, this is very non-scientific. What I'm doing is going from the bottom and just eyeballing the top. Now it's honestly a couple places a little proud of 3/4, closer to 7/8. Basically, it's the same as the other side, which is great. I think I'm gonna go ahead and cut the floor free, and then I'll cut the rocker. All right, so I'm gonna come in here and snip this off basically right at the seam here. That should give me a pretty straight edge, and I should be able to get back to my 5 3/4. All right, well, I got this piece cut. I was a little smarter and left more this time, so I'm able to kind of overlap it just a little bit. And I think I might leave it that way instead of butt welding, which I blew through a bunch over there and it was annoying. A real body guy would tell you not to overlap your panels. Good thing I'm not a real body guy. I think I'm gonna get this cleaned up, fitted, and tacked in place, and that's probably gonna do it for today. So I'm gonna do that real quick. I probably won't even finish weld it, and then I will see you guys in the morning for more of the same, cutting, grinding, welding. But I'm actually feeling good. The past 2 times we haven't really made progress. This time we're putting stuff back, which feels better than just taking away. So once we get these rockers figured out, the big chunks are gonna go in, right? Front floor panels. We're gonna build some supports. We're gonna do some stuff. Tomorrow will be a good day. Okay, so we got just a quick coat of Rust-Oleum on that. Looking pretty good. I still have a hole or two here. I don't care because the floor is gonna come over it. We're considering this rocker panel done. We're gonna head back to the other side. We're back on the passenger side. I have that cowl panel kind of trimmed out, so I think we're gonna start there. It's gonna be hard for me to remember, but this part of the project, we're gonna tack literally everything first and then go back and finish weld it. I welded these in all the way because like the rocker is going to be where the rocker, it has to be there. The rest of this stuff, not necessarily the case. So I want to, it should look like a little minefield of tacks in here. And then we'll come back and probably spend a whole day just finish welding it. That's hard for me to do because I get excited and I just want to weld stuff. We can't do that. I'm mostly saying it out loud so I can remind myself. Here's where we're gonna start. Crawling here. We gotta deal with this cowl panel. I also wanna build some sort of like brace support for this fender while I got it open. So I'm gonna tackle those 2 things. Probably get some paint in here while it's out because this is rough, but we're gonna ignore it. And then after that, we're going to start adding sections of floor. All right, so I went ahead and I built a sweet little fender brace so this isn't flopping around anymore. You can see it down there. I just bolted it to the fender and then it comes up and it welds to this little frame horn, which is perfect. I'm gonna hit all of that with a coat of my rust reformer, and then we're gonna start working on panel work. Next step is gonna be tacking this panel in place. I got it clamped up there just to kind of remind myself how it fits. Looks like it fits the same after the rocker work. So I'm gonna pull it back out, sand some of the paint off in the areas where we're gonna weld it, and then probably punch a couple more holes in between. That way I can use my clamps and probably a big clamp right here to suck it up to this pillar, and I can spot weld it. I got the edges kind of touched up here. Oh, I need to touch up these edges. And then we'll put this in place. All right, well, I think we're gonna end up starting down here at the bottom. I'll put a clamp somewhere and try to get this curve to match the curve of the rocker. We'll lay a tack in there and we'll just kind of tap and work our way up. If I can fit my head in here. One down. Not really, because it just popped. All right, well, to be honest with you, I'm pretty unhappy about how that panel went in, but it is in there. I think we'll probably put a tack or 2 up here. We have to figure out how to fill that gap. Not a lot of actual progress has been made. Well, not a lot of physical progress, but I do feel like I made some mental progress. Let me show you what we got going on. here. Hold on, light it up. I've rethought my cab mount deal. This is just a piece of 1 3/4 square tube. That's gonna get us the height off the frame that we need. I got the mount in there and the square washer. This is notched because there's a depression in the floorboard that kind of needs to sit in there. And I want this flat to hit the flat of the floor so I can spot weld to it and provide some strength. As you can see, this is level right now. So this should be the bottom of the floor. Now, if you recall, this lip of the rocker should also be the bottom of the floor. Or the 90 on the floor panel engages the 90 here. So if we take my level that's way too big, you can see how far we need to come up. For the sake of one-handed, let's call that level. We're still level over there. That's all of 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches. So that is what we're gonna do. It took me a long time to figure out how we're gonna know when we're high enough. Originally, I was gonna build the floor and then jack everything up. I don't think I'm gonna do that anymore. I think I'm gonna build another identical one of these mounts for the other side, which is gonna involve a little cutting over there, it looks like. And then I'm gonna jack the cab up, which should let the front tilt up. The back is still attached. And I'm gonna stop when this edge is level with this edge. Then we know that's how high we need, that's factory, or close enough for us, right? As far as distance from the frame. When we're there, then I can start fitting panels and somehow make something to ensure that the height doesn't change. I don't know how I'm gonna jack it up yet. I have to figure that out. Excuse me, I've been making the cab mount for the driver's side and I have an interesting development. Check this out. Can you see that? If you can't, I'll give you a hint. These two surfaces are level. The other interesting part is if I do this, which is not the best measurement I've ever made, but basically what I got is one end of a 4-foot level on the driver's side rocker, the other on what would be the passenger side cab mount that I built moments ago. It's also pretty much dead nuts level. So that tells me that only the passenger side fell down. And I don't really know why. But it kind of makes sense because when I try to lift up on this side, nothing really happened. The other side, I can move a fair amount. So that's good news, I think. I also think it means we might start on this side and get the floor, the pedals, all that kind of figured out, work our way that way, jack that side up kind of at the end, and sneak that cab mount in there. It might be easier than trying to lift everything all at once. If I can get these cab mounts figured out and everything leveled up, it should just be, got to cut out a little bit more on the driver's side. Obviously the kick panel, this panel here is in really rough shape. And then hopefully we'll start putting big pieces in and it'll look like we did something by the end of tomorrow. We know the driver's side's level. We're gonna level up the passenger side. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and cut this whole piece out. That way we can, I want to add a couple extra cab supports just to hold the floor up. I don't have a bead roller, so we're going to have a flat floor, so I definitely want to make sure it's got some support underneath. So I'm going to slip this piece off, and then we know this will be our level. Also, I think this cut's going to be very satisfying because we're going to open up basically the whole thing, and I can stand in there. Oh, so close. I'm almost out of cutoff wheel. Oh, better deal with that. That screw that you've seen is holding a clip for wires that go back to our taillights or brake lights, I can't tell. The wire already got messed up here when I was gently removing pieces. We'll bend that clip out of the way, get the wires out, then we'll get this piece out. There you go. Very easy to remove. That's just a ground for something. I don't know what. For fuel sender, which we're not going to use anyway. So for now, we're going to tuck all this stuff down here. We will address it. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for today. We still have more time. It's Thanksgiving week, so we got a couple extra days to be at home in the shop working on this. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll kind of get some ideas about how we want to support this new floor, and then we'll immediately dive in up front, getting those two preform panels kind of in place. We need to maybe build a little bit of a floor support in the middle, although we might just run something across here. And then We have to fabricate our own flat floor back here with seat mounting in mind. It's still a bunch to do in one day. I don't know if we're going to get it all done in one day, but we're going to keep plugging along, and I'll be back with you guys tomorrow. It's the next day. Things have gotten off to a very sketchy start already, but I'm pretty excited about it. So let me show you what I made. This here is the cab lifter version 2. You may remember I built something similar when I was trying to take the cab off of white trash and it immediately bent. This ain't gonna do that. Let me show you how it works. It's upside down right now. It actually goes like this. This is an engine support bar from Harbor Freight that I've had for years. I bought it to do an in-car oil pan on a 1990 BMW, which I cannot say I recommend. And I haven't used it for anything else. I don't know that these bars are solid, but they're super thick wall. This thing is heavy. Took a couple pieces of chunky angle, made myself a little pivot, hitch pin, didn't have to modify the hoist at all. And then this is, it's actually upside down, right? This is supposed to sit like against where the fenders bolt or whatever on a car and support this way, but we're using it upside down. So these are gonna touch the roof of the cab and they are adjustable, which is sweet. This is how we're gonna jack our cab up. I couldn't figure that out. I spent all last night thinking about it. How am I going to get it where I want it precisely and keep it there? Okay, my balance is a little off. That's maybe for version 3, we'll address that. I think it's really close though, maybe we'll fixed. Anyway, sorry. So we're gonna scoot this in here and jack this up and see if we can't get it to move. I also redid my measurements a little bit from yesterday. The driver's side isn't as level as I thought. I think I was just tired and got a little excited. So both need to come up, which is, I think, better news because I'm not sure how I was gonna jack one side, not the other. So I think our plan is to see if this works. Probably set it back down. We gotta trim out some of the driver's side footwell, but then when we go to fit stuff, I think we're gonna want it where it's gonna be, right? So this will probably sneak in there and we'll jack it back up. We're either gonna move this cab or we're gonna break something. We'll find out together. My thought is it isn't gonna take a bunch. The adjustability is a wonderful design feature. I mean, I don't think it's gonna bend that. Let's give it a couple pumps. It's currently lifting me. I need to extendo my legs though. Make a couple adjustments. We might take another swing at this. All right, a couple things. One, I realized the steering column was still bolted in there. Could have been part of the reason why the driver's side wasn't down as much and why it wasn't moving. Second thing, which I'm very proud of, and I have to share. One of the steering column bolts had a square head. I have no square drive socket, but I do have 1/2-inch drive square Allen. So this is a 19. What I did was use the drive end as that. Then I took a 19 on my gun. I'll tell you what, save that tip for later. It also did bust off in there, but it came out. Okay, so looking at this a little more, I don't think this cab is gonna move where we want it until I take the rear cab mounts off. They're like a shackle type. The way they're set up allows movement this way, but you're fighting the bushing, the shackle, and everything to do a tilting motion, which is kind of what we need. I have new bushings and stuff, and those are gonna come out and get replaced eventually. I'm a little bit nervous to break them loose right now because then nothing's holding the cab up. So I think what we'll do is we know where we want the floor. I'm gonna focus over here and get like, this kick panel can be done no matter where the floor's at. I can trim out some stuff that I know is bad here. We can lay out some cab floor supports at the same level as this because now we know where that is. Let's focus on probably here and here before we completely free the cab because right now we still have some frame of reference. I think we're gonna start in this panel. Now, down here, I obviously have the whole thing. We're not gonna use the whole thing. Remember, only needs what it needs. It obviously needs something here. Just at first glance, I'm wondering if I can't take it at this last louver kind of up, keep the angle the same, get rid of everything below that, and then maybe leave like the end of these depressions. That way I don't get into this weather strip holder, and this metal actually seems pretty good. And I'd like to leave this shape that rolls down into the rocker. So I think what I'm gonna do is cut out the known bad stuff, and then eventually I'm gonna end up cutting this panel to a little bit more manageable size because it comes all the way up to here. All right, it is hours later, but I have that panel trimmed out pretty nice. Kind of did the same thing, drilled a couple Cleco holes. Also got a couple clamps on there. I like how it's fitting, and I was able to keep the third louver, which is cool. So I think I'm going to go ahead and tack that in place. So we got that panel tacked in. That one turned out better than the other side. I did a little better job cleaning the pillar, which I think was a big part of why my plug welds weren't popping. And this one didn't have as much shape to it, but it's in there for now. We'll come back and finish it later. Remember, we're just tacking everything. All right, next steps, I believe, in my made up order of operations here, is to figure out how much of this we're keeping and start cutting out what we don't want and fitting that other preformed panel, knowing that this is now where it's going to sit. Obviously there's some stuff here. This is weird. My other panel is a little bit different. It doesn't have these like raised bosses, which I don't totally think matters because like this is clutch, brake, gas. I stole the things for the gas starter button. We'll have to see. I'm not, or maybe we don't have to go that high. I don't know. I was frustrated when I cut that out. I could tell. Good morning. It's the next day. I got updates. Here's where we're at. We got the cab lifter 3000 in there. It does work. I got this rear cab mount loose with the air hammer. I'm gonna have to rebuild that. Not a big deal. But now I can move the cab quite a bit. It's jacked up a little bit right now. I also went ahead and I had to remake my cab mounts. I used 1 3/4 originally, and I didn't account for the thickness of the isolator pad, which is about 400 thousandths. So with that all bolted together, this surface was closer to like 2 1/8, which is too high. And I already had to jack the cab a long ways. I didn't really feel good about it. So I remade it out of 1.5 inches. We still have our 400. That puts us right about where we want to be. So that's working better. I remade both sides. I've kind of got the floor pieces set in there. Things look like they may work out. The rear cab mount on the other side is still connected, but it's flexing good, so I'm able to get the movement I think I need. So after a couple hours of trimming, jacking, pushing, pulling, this is what we got. I got something I'm not totally unhappy with. I have everything just kind of clamped. Now I've got some gaps to fill and the panels have some shape. I'm not sure how much of this is my inexperience or the panels not fitting perfect. I got to build some patch panels for stuff. Like I knew we weren't going to have a e-brake anymore. The seam where they come together. The other thing we have to do before we get too aggressive is drill holes for the brake light switch. Put the little pedestal mount for the gas pedal, or the hinge goes here, and remember we got to get the gas pedal rod through there. Probably fit some brake pedals, stuff like that. But overall, I'm feeling okay. I do think I'm going to go ahead and run a cross brace right here. I kind of have it shimmed up. Now I ordered some 1/4 inch rubber mat that I'll cut and kind of make isolators because I got to thinking last night, if I weld this to here, then I've effectively solid mounted the cab and these mounts are doing nothing. So I'm going to kind of copy that and put a piece of rubber sheet between the frame. You can see how it's kind of bent down to it, but that's just holding everything square right now. So I'm feeling pretty good. It is Thanksgiving Day, so I think I might be done for the day. Not because I have anything to do, but because I'm sure the neighbors are going to start eating at like 2, and they probably wouldn't appreciate their grease monkey neighbor out here running a cutoff wheel while they're trying to watch football and have cranberry sauce. So probably gonna wrap it up for today. But all bets are off for Black Friday. We're coming back at it. Might start tacking, or we might not, and keep Clecoing and make this panel and get it kind of set in there and then tack everything all at once. I gotta leave the lift master up because I'm afraid if I let it down, it's gonna shoot all these Clecos out like bullets. But that's a problem for tomorrow. So we took a day off from this project to go have a little rip on our Roadrunner, which was fun, but now we're back on floor duty. And I'm trying to remember where we left off. This is fitting kind of where we need it. The cab is still jacked up. There's a bunch to do to this panel because it doesn't come with the hinge for the gas pedal, the holes drilled for the brake switch, and the holes drilled for the low-high beam headlight switch. So we need to do that. I saved those pieces from the other panel. But I think what I'm going to do first, while it's in here, is I'm going to measure for a cross brace. Now I think we're going to put our first brace right here, and it's going to span the whole length, tie into the frame, and hopefully, honestly, tie into the rocker too to give us some support along this. So I think what I'll do is get some measurements, make sure the pans are level. This one looks like it's got a little bow. And just kind of mark that out before I take this out because it's kind of finicky to put in and out a whole bunch. And I think what I want to do is have it something like that. So this flange of these preformed panels, grab it, and I can spot weld, but then also the panel that we're gonna make, I have something solid to weld to. So I'm gonna take a measurement basically right along this edge. I come right at the edge of this. It looks like if I cut it at 55 inches, I can sand it kind of to fit, which is what I want to do. I would like to tie it into the rocker, and I would also maybe like to take a couple stringers and come out around the trans to support this, because we have a mount here I could come out from, and same thing over there. Build kind of like a structure underneath the floor to support everything, because my big fear is when I take the Cab Lifter 9000 out, she's going to settle right back down. From the factory, they were optimistic with just these 4 spots. We're going to do a little bit more than that. At least that's how it works in my head. Let's cut some tube, 55. All right, well, I got that piece made, just clamped in here, but this is basically what I'm thinking, right? Lots of like flange, good virgin material to weld to. I have it clamped right now, but I am going to put rubber isolators under the frame. Our brace is in. I got this piece from the old chunk of floorboard. This is the, what I've been calling the screen door hinge. It actually is the pivot for the gas pedal. It goes right here. Not down there. Give me a second now. Where'd it go? Okay. It goes right here. There's a throttle stop, effectively, pedal stop right here that needs to be welded on. Right here, there's 2 holes that need to be drilled for the brake light switch. And then over here in the corner, there's 2 holes that need to be drilled for the screws that hold the high-low beam switch. So all of that's to say, I'm going to pull this panel back out, and I'm going to address all those things right now, because it's going to be way easier to do it when it's not welded in. So I got the driver's side kick panel prepped. This is clecoed in there just kind of to hold it. This isn't that precise of a thing. The throttle rod comes through here. The pedal actually sits kind of sideways, which is why this isn't in line with this hole. That's how it's supposed to be, I checked. So let me find that other piece, which is like basically the pedal stop, and then we'll tack both of them in. This is the stop piece, and this is the pedal. We'll end up tacking this too, but I want to get that in place first. Maybe throw the pin through the pedal and make sure we're not stopping too early, because we only have like 92 horse. And if we're not getting full throttle, hills are going to be a problem. So this pedal fits in here like this. See the angle we got going on? And then this one has some shape to it too, and I don't actually know if that's how it's supposed to be or if it's bent. It kind of follows this angle though, so I'm thinking it might be on purpose. Is that wooded right there? That seems like it might be just about wide open. That'll work for now. I believe this panel is ready to go back in. I'm not going to say for good, but it's ready to go back in. I got both cab mounts loose, or all 4 I mean, so she's wiggly. But those are soaking in Evaporust, so I thought I would go ahead and make a template and start to figure out what I'm going to do about this big section of floor. So I cut a piece of cardboard, and I've kind of been roughing this out. Now, what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to leave all this, and I'm actually overlapping up to this flange on both sides, because I know that's square. It gives me something to butt up against, and then I'm going to come up to here, and our support we made earlier is under here. Okay, so this floor is going to be flat. I'm going to trim to kind of match the angle of the rocker, and I'm building this all out of 16 gauge hot rolled, which is probably too thick, but remember, I don't have a bead roller, and we are looking for support. Once I get this piece in, I can come back and like trim these out. This cab mount came out without breaking any bolts, which is great. I'm going to reuse these, obviously. I'm going to rebuild those. I'll have to reinforce that one over there, but with the ribs I'm going to put in, these aren't going to do as much as they would in the factory, so I'm not really concerned about the metal being a little questionable. All this stuff back here is fine. It's staying. I'll probably hit it with the flap wheel to take just some of this carnage out where I had to air hammer the gas tank mounts out. Well, I've got my template roughed out here. This edge is a little, but you know, it might actually end up kind of being that way. We've got a bunch to play with here, right? Whoa. hold on. That noise you heard and my freak out that you saw was the air. I think it was the gun. I haven't found it yet. Blowing off of this hose. I don't think I had a clamp on it. Maybe I did, but she decided to let go, and it scared the hell out of me. This is a play stupid games, win stupid prizes moment. I remember when I put this together, I didn't have a barb, so I built this half-ass coupler. But this is just the other end of a QD that I jammed in there as a barb. But obviously, it worked for a long time. I mean, a couple years, but she let go, so my fault. Oh, I got one. We'll replace it with the right stuff. How about? Got that crisis all figured out. I think I got the compressor drain and we got no air right now. So I think what I'd like to do is get this traced out onto that piece of sheet, cut the rest out, probably honestly just with a cutoff wheel. I wish I had something better for this, but I kind of don't. And then lay it up here and see. I'd like to at least get it cut today. Maybe not fit all the way, but... Here's where we ended up after a little more trimming, sanding, drilling. We've got this piece fitting down here, nice, where there's a gap, but the gap is filled by that support bar underneath. I have the back fastened just temporarily. Things are looking good. All right, well, unfortunately, I think that's going to do it for this episode of TYGR's Garage. The holiday weekend is over. We got to go back to real life. But we got a lot done. I think 2-3 more days, and we'll have a floor in this thing. Thank you guys for following along. Please don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.